probably can't see the Golden Gate Bridge. It's off in the distance. But look at that, Ghirardelli Square. 49ers colors still. They decided to keep those colors on at Ghirardelli for the time being. I'm leaving the Dolphin Club. Yes, Casper's taking me. Those of you coming into town for the Super Bowl, I'm sure you'll get plenty of driverless rides. It's one of our mechanisms to deliver you 49ers news while I'm on the move through San Francisco. South End Rowing Club right there. That is the quote-unquote rival of the Dolphin Club. And here comes our right turn, which many of you have become familiar with over the past couple of seasons. 49ers news is that Brant Boyer looks like their special teams coordinator. Essentially confirmation he's going to be sticking around because John Bones Fossil is known as Bones. That is his nickname, is sticking around under Robert Saleh in Tennessee. Fossil's a good special teams coordinator, but we know that Saleh has history with Brant Boyer, who came over to the 49ers and turned around their special teams. So there had been some wonder, well, will Saleh take Brant Boyer with him? I responded to that by saying I think that Brant Boyer is under contract for more than 1 year with the 49ers, but we're soon to find out, and we did find out. Boyer's not following Robert Saleh. Cable cars, Buena Vista Cafe, home of the Irish coffee. Nice turn here from Casper. Probably should zoom out a little bit, and we should rotate the camera back on me. Maybe a surprise trip, by the way, next week. The Irish coffee might be a hint. It's in the vicinity of where we might be headed. But look, the Ghirardelli sign. We got 49ers colors, that red and gold, a little bit closer. You can get your nice hot fudge sundae at the former Ghirardelli chocolate factory. I use this clock tower right here to see what time it is when I'm swimming in the bay. You can't really see the clock on it at this very moment. It'd roll down the window. But it is a nice clock tower, and around the holiday season, they do have it lit up in this way. All right, let's talk 49ers. Let's flip it back on me and talk a little bit more. This was interesting. The 49ers requested permission to interview the Falcons DB coach, Justin Hood, but the Falcons, with their new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, denied it. What does that mean? Well, it means that the 49ers were not offering Justin Hood a defensive coordinator interview. It means that they wanted to give him a lateral move position, and it makes me wonder who Robert Saleh might be taking with him to Tennessee. Is there a chance that he's taking Daniel Bullocks, the 49ers defensive backs coach, with him to Tennessee? Because if that does happen, then the 49ers would have to fill the DB coach role, and that could explain why they were interested in interviewing Justin Hood. Now, that's just one theory right now. We don't know the rest of the picture, but obviously we're going to be waiting for the 49ers staff. But the good news here is that Brant Boyer, who is one of the best special teams coordinators in football, who oversaw the 49ers improving from dead last in special teams to number 2 in the whole league behind only Seattle in this 2025 season, is not going to be following Robert Saleh. That is big for the 49ers because they have to make sure that they sustain this special team success. A title might depend on it. I mean, I asked I asked Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch about this yesterday because, I just wanted to see if I could get a hint as to whether or not Brant Boyer would return. And I think the hint was affirmative from Kyle Shanahan in the way that he spoke of Brant Boyer. But my question was, is that kicking battery of Eddie Pinheiro, who was awesome, Thomas Morstead, who was the holder and the punter, who was also really good, and John Weeks, who was the long snapper, who was an upgrade over Tabor Pepper, are those guys going to be back? Because those guys are not under contract for the 2026 season as of right now. And Kyle Shanahan said that the 49ers are going to try very hard to get all three of those guys back. I do think it's going to be a priority because special teams derailed this team in its journey toward a Super Bowl title in 2023. I mean, that ball bounced off of Darrell Luter Jr.'s leg. Jake Moody missed an extra point in that Super Bowl. The 49ers did not rank well on special teams in that 2023 season. Oh boy, look, Casper's going to freak out now. There's a car, as you can see, parked on the wrong side of the road right here facing us. But look, good evasive maneuver from Casper, making it all the way around. It's like, it's one of those lift bike delivery trucks. So, I mean, a year or two ago when we first started doing these driverless car rides, that situation would not have ended up positively, would have been stuck. Now we're making it through. We're going to work our way up Goff, probably through Hayes Valley. We're actually headed down to the Mission today. There's a bar called Beauty Bar, that iconic bar, East Village, New York, San Francisco Mission District, 2 locations. I don't know if the New York one is still there, but the Mission one closed a few years ago. But my buddy has a friend who's a bartender in the Beauty Bar in San Francisco that has just reopened. So we're going to go check that out, and then we're going to hit up probably Taqueria Cancun, which is right across the street, which is one of my favorite places in the world. But until then, we can talk about the 49ers special teams and how I asked Kyle Shanahan, not just are these guys going to be back, and he said yes, we're going to try to get the Eddie Pinheiro, Thomas Morstead, and John Weeks back. But then it was a 2-part question. I asked Kyle, what have you learned from Brant Boyer this year in his turnaround of this special teams unit that will help you make sure that this special teams turnaround is sustainable? Because title chances like a Lombardi trophy may in fact depend on it. The 49ers saw special teams cost them in 2023. It obviously cost them big time in 2024. There were other issues in 2024 with the team being worn out and holes on the roster due to injuries. And we know the issues in 2024, that it wasn't special teams being the only culprit, but it was one of the main culprits toward that collapse to 6-11. And it was a big enough culprit to where Kyle Shanahan said enough is enough in the 2025 offseason. And he went out and hired Boyer, who came over after the 49ers had retained Saleh. And Boyer had been the longtime Jets special teams coordinator under Robert Saleh, and even before then. So they said enough is enough. They got Boyer. It appears that they signed him to more than a 1-year deal, although the terms weren't disclosed at the time. So there had been, just this undercurrent from fans. I got a lot of questions. Is we sure that Brant Boyer is going to stay? Mike was talking about it a lot in our text thread, and the answer now is yes. Brant Boyer, the guy who loves hunting up in Montana. I mean, the 49ers might be in trouble if there was an NFL team up in Montana, but he's going to be in California for now. He's probably already back in Montana now for the offseason. Brant Boyer, former NFL safety and just all-time good specialist and awesome special teams coordinator, it should be back to help the 49ers keep this sustainable next year. And when I asked Kyle that question about, well, what have you learned about keeping this sustainable, he said that Brant Boyer just delivers the same consistent message every day. He says some guys will try to special teams guru you up, and they'll try to get all fancy and say, okay, I've got a new way of going out and returning kicks or covering kicks. And Brant Boyer will just give you the fundamentals and drill them home, because the fundamentals mean a lot to him every single day. No BS from Brant Boyer. And that's how Kyle Shanahan says they got the special teams turned around in 2025. And he thinks that consistency moving forward is going to allow that phase of the game to stay that way into 2026. Consider the fact that special teams, with all the expected points the 49ers earned in that phase of the game, probably earned the 49ers over 2 more wins in 2025. Like, they were a 12-win regular season team, 13-win team, including the Philadelphia game in the playoffs. The 12-5 record is probably a 10-7 record, maybe even a 9-8 record, and who knows, maybe even worse if special teams is as bad as it was in 2024, because you could lose belief as a team. Like, one thing that Kyle Shanahan prided himself on was that the 49ers did not lose 2 straight games all season. The 49ers found a way to stay in contention by continuing to win, even despite the fact that they had all these injuries and should have been done much sooner. And the offensive and defensive metrics combined suggest that they should have had about 2 fewer wins. But it was the special teams at number 2 in the league that so significantly outperformed what had been its margin earlier that they were able to get this up to those 12 wins and then the 13th win in the postseason. Somebody like Sky Moore was really big on top of all the kicking game. He's going to be a free agent in March. You wonder, will Junior Bergen become the 49ers' next returner, or are they going to have to maintain a specialist like Sky Moore on this team, more of a veteran presence? Junior Bergen wasn't quite ready for the moment last year. They gave him the shot in the preseason, but he muffed that punt a couple days after they traded for Sky Moore. But Junior Bergen is from the University of Montana. He is somebody who Brant Boyer handpicked coming out of college. Brant Boyer's son played with Junior at Montana, so he was really familiar with Junior Bergen, who had that NCAA, I think it was the FCS record in kick returns and punt returns for touchdowns. So he has an innate ability to do the job. The question is, does he have the athleticism, and does he have the wherewithal to do it at the NFL level? He spent this year on the practice squad, and the 49ers were able to re-sign Junior Bergen to a reserve future contract, which means that he's going to be on the team through at least the offseason. The 49ers made their 16th signing of this offseason today. Junior Bergen was one of the first 15 to add on to that 49ers 90-man roster. 16th was the tight end, Hayden Rucci. Now, Rucci was with this football team at the very end of the 2025 regular season, or playoffs, I guess I should say. The end of the 2025 run, there's the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart here in San Francisco. We're on Cathedral Hill. Cathedral Hill is a couple tall buildings you could see back to downtown, and then you kind of dip over Cathedral Hill and you start heading into Hayes Valley. When we're at Chez Maman in Hayes Valley, I'll flip the camera back around and show you one of the best burgers in San Francisco. But after Kittle went down, the 49ers needed to add another tight end so they could run practices. So for the week of the Seattle game, the final game of the regular season, the 49ers signed Hayden Rucci to their practice squad. They apparently want more of a look at Hayden Rucci. Who wouldn't want another look at an Italian guy? They're adding Hayden Rucci to the 90-man roster, and he's going to battle for a spot, show the 49ers what he has over the course of this offseason. They still have about 30 or so signings to make to fill out the 90-man roster. As it stands right now, the 49ers have 7 draft picks. If they make any trades of players, that they could potentially add more. So they're going to need spots for their draftees. They're going to need some spots for undrafted free agents, but obviously free agency and many more re-signings like restricted free agents, exclusive rights free agents, that all has to happen first. So it's going to be a busy few weeks for the 49ers. The first order of business are those reserve futures contracts, and they've already handed out 16 of those, with Rucci being the 16th. I think that San Francisco's a little bit more concerned about filling out the coaching staff right now. For that, you've got to worry not only about filling the spot taken by Robert Saleh, but also who Robert Saleh might take with him to Tennessee. And that's why I looked at that Justin Hood interview and I scratched my head and I said, what are the 49ers doing here? Are they already trying to make up for poachings delivered by Robert Saleh? What's the full story behind that particular interview, which was denied by the Atlanta Falcons? That means that Justin Hood remains under contract. He's going to be keeping Jeff Ulbrich around, who's still under contract with the Falcons. So just like it appears that Boyer was still under contract with the 49ers, Ulbrich still under contract with the Falcons, so he stays under the new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, who came over from the Browns, and Stefanski had a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, with him in Cleveland. Schwartz is currently in the Cleveland head coaching search process, but he's still under contract with the Browns. A lot of people saying, why did the 49ers just go get Jim Schwartz? Well, the Browns may not want to give him up. We're now in Hayes Valley. I promised you a look at the best burger in San Francisco. One of the best. That red awning, that is Chez Maman. It's a little French brasserie, bistro, whatever you want to call it. They've got one of the best burgers in the city. And this is Hayes Valley, a neighborhood which I like very much, the neighborhood which I actually lived in for a couple years before 2020 hit in San Francisco. Really, really good stuff. Now, I hope that Beauty Bar, where we end up at the Mission, I don't know if they're going to have food, but it's okay because Taqueria Cancun is right across the street. I can't let you know how good there's this really good dumpling place. People love that spot, the dumpling spot here on Gough Street. They'll let you know how good the food is in a little bit. So that's the gist of the 49ers news today. I will answer some questions, and maybe Mike will have some other stuff that does come in, but San Francisco currently still waiting for this defensive coordinator situation to resolve itself. Some potential exterior candidates like Jim Schwartz and Raheem Morris are still in head coaching discussions. Meanwhile, the 49ers have an internal candidate who they've already said is the favorite, and that is Gus Bradley. And I know a lot of people are up in arms about that, and I don't see why. The 49ers are going to be moving to, or they've already had 3 defensive coordinators in 3 years. It's going to be 4 in 4 years with this next one. Steve Wilks, Nick Sorensen, Robert Saleh. What this team needs is some continuity, and they need some health. They had a personnel deficiency this year. The numbers didn't end up good for the defense. And I go over them on an almost weekly basis, so I don't think that's all that surprising to people. Look. Sorry about that. I accidentally hit mute. I said we always have to take a look at those trolley cars when we hit Market Street. And when we do cross Market Street, then sometimes we're trying to spin the camera around and I accidentally hit the mute button. So I'm very embarrassed about that. For those of you coming to the San Francisco area, it's for you. I know that the videos in the to check out what I put out there, and I'm sure that I'll have some dedicated stuff here over the course of the next few days. Anyway, the 49ers are waiting for these interviews for head coaches to calm down so that they know exactly who's going to be available for them, specifically a defensive coordinator. But with Gus Bradley, if you need continuity as the 49ers, Gus Bradley will, I mean, that's the definition of continuity. He was Robert Saleh's mentor. If you're looking to keep the Robert Saleh system going, then Robert Saleh's mentor would not be a bad pick for the 49ers. Gus was the original architect of the Legion of Boom. I know that this is not a Seattle-style question anymore. The scheme has evolved a lot since then. In 2019, the 49ers moved away from the exclusively cover 3 Seattle-style coverage, but they still run a 4-down front. And Gus was in the building for the whole year this past year, talking with Robert Saleh, developing a plan with Robert Saleh, not just for 2025, but also beyond. So he's got a feel for the 49ers staff, and it would be a high floor hire for San Francisco. The scheme was not the problem this past year. They gave up an insane amount of completions against linebackers this past year after Fred Warner went down. You're going to get Fred Warner back this next year. It was a problem in 2024, even beyond Fred Warner at the linebacker position, where Devondre Campbell wasn't any good. I think this goes back to them losing Greenlaw. This is a defense that needs 2 linebackers who can cover, and I think that maybe that's the place where the 49ers should think about investing this offseason if they don't believe that D. Winters is A, going to stay healthy, or B, get the job done even if he is healthy. So personnel-wise, you need to be better at linebacker if you're the 49ers. 2, if you're San Francisco, you absolutely need more pressure coming from the defensive tackle position. Between Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott and Kevin Gibbons, the 49ers were not getting much from their veteran defensive tackles. And the youngsters can, you can understand when they're not giving you what you need pass rushing wise for a lot of the season, because you drafted them to be run stoppers and it took them a while to develop as run stoppers. But the 49ers ending pressure rate as defensive tackles was 7.5%. They generated only 2.5 sacks on the season. So fans should be a whole lot more worried about the 49ers going and getting a powerful pass rushing defensive tackle this offseason, or developing Alfred Collins and CJ West to take the next step, which it appeared that they were starting to do at the end of 2025. But that's way more important for the 49ers than whoever they get a defensive coordinator. You get Jim Schwartz at DC, and it's not going to be a pretty story if you don't address those personnel issues. because the 49ers had Robert Saleh, who everybody loved and wanted a defensive coordinator, but this past year, but they still finished number 24 as a defense. Why? Well, because they didn't have the interior rush, they didn't have the linebacker play that they needed, and I also think that they were a little bit deficient at safety. So I think Gus Bradley would give them a very similar floor to Robert Saleh, and I think that a ceiling for this defense is going to be more easily attained if the 49ers focus on the personnel side. And that's obviously what they're going to do. There are two separate things for San Francisco. Look, we're almost here. We're in the Mission District. We're going down one of these back streets in the Mission. This is very San Francisco, by the way. I love the Mission. This is where I get a lot of my best food in the city. Now, the problem is we got a delivery guy here, and Casper is not sure if he can fit. Oh, here he goes. He's going to make it. The hole doesn't need to be that big. He hits the hole hard. Now we're going to be making our way to 19th Street. We're at mural and with the Santana mural in the Mission. Yeah, because Wild Hawk, cool little bar here on the corner at 19th, and then here you are going to see the Giants mural. You guys see the SF over there? I'm just waiting for this car to turn. I'm going to roll down the window so you guys can see it as we drive by. Hope you enjoyed the show, though. Hayden Rucci, a 49er again after a few days not being under contract, and the 49ers also will be for sure retaining Brant Boyer. Look, there's the San Francisco Giants mural. Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, all those guys on there. And then the Santana mural, where it looks like they're setting up the taco stand, is right here. Santana, the musician himself, born and raised in the Mission. Cool little mural, right? We've made it to Beauty, same corner as Taqueria Cancun. Yep, they have reopened this place, and it does look nice. San Francisco, New York City. Let's go see what it's all about. Everybody take care. We'll